For more videos like this, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The Night Stalker, the true story of Richard Ramirez. Shadows in El Paso. Long before the world knew the name Night Stalker, before the pentagram etched on his palm, and before the panicked cries across Los Angeles, there was simply Richard. Born Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez on February 29, 1960. In El Paso, Texas, he was the youngest of 5 children in a Mexican-American family that was struggling financially, emotionally, and spiritually. His father, Julian Ramirez, was a former Juarez police officer turned laborer for the Santa Fe Railroad. Julian was a strict disciplinarian. Richard, small and sickly as a child due to seizures and chronic health issues, was often on the receiving end of his father's explosive temper. The house was filled with yelling and the ever-present sting of belt lashes. Even as a young boy, Richard learned that silence was survival, and darkness held a strange comfort. His mother, Mercedes, was more nurturing but helpless against the storm of violence brewing in their home. She worked at a boot factory and was exposed to chemicals during her pregnancies. Some would later speculate this may have contributed to Richard's early health problems. But the deeper scars weren't physical, they were psychological. By the time he was 12, Richard found refuge in the shadows literally. He started sleeping in cemeteries to escape the chaos at home. He became fascinated with death, horror films, and the macabre. Unlike most children who feared the monsters in the movies, Richard admired them. The pivotal figure in Richard's formative years was his older cousin, Miguel Mike Ramirez, a Vietnam War veteran. Mike was a decorated Green Beret who returned from the war with a box of Polaroids, a stash of weapons, and a mind fractured by trauma and violence. He was Richard's hero. Mike shared stories with Richard about his time in the jungle, stories of ambushes, booby traps, and executions. But the most disturbing part wasn't the tales, it was the photos. In graphic, gruesome detail, Mike showed Richard snapshots of Vietnamese women he had raped and mutilated, some with their heads severed, some smiling in twisted poses before their final moments. To a teenage Richard, these images weren't warnings, they were lessons. Mike taught Richard how to handle firearms and stealthily stalk prey. He called it jungle justice. For Mike, it was war. For Richard, it became a blueprint. Then came the night that sealed Richard's descent into the abyss. It was 1973. Richard, only 13, was visiting Mike at his home when an argument broke out between Mike and his wife, Jessie. In a flash, Mike pulled out a .38 caliber revolver and shot her in the face at point-blank range.